I often get asked how to start in cybersecurity, and the conversation always almost leads on to certifications. Questions I get asked are around what certifications should I be looking at in order to get the best start in cybersecurity? What is the best certification to start out with in order to understand cybersecurity? And some of these questions are coming quite frequently. So I wanted to create this video to address those questions and basically tell you why I think the Cisco Certified Network Associate certification is the best certification for people looking at getting into cybersecurity. So for those that are already familiar with the Cisco Certified Network Associate or CCNA certification, you may be asking yourself, well, why am I recommending a predominantly network focused certification to people that are looking at getting in cybersecurity? And stick with me here because we're going to look through exactly what the CCNA entails, and that will hopefully help you understand why I always recommend a certification like the CCNA for anybody looking to get into cybersecurity. Now, to do that, we're going to look at the CCNA. We're going to take a look at what is covered on the exam, what is covered in the certification, and the skills that you will hopefully gain while studying for the CCNA as well. So if we just start out by looking at the Cisco website and information about the CCNA certification, we can see that we've got a wealth of information here that's very useful to understand. Now, bear with me here. All it says your career network begins here with the CCNA essentially. That is definitely true. And even though you're looking at getting into cybersecurity, that is still also true. And the reason that is because in order to really get into cybersecurity and understand certain elements of cybersecurity, you need to understand how networks work. You need to understand networking fundamentals, as is covered here in the CCNA certification. There's also topics around the network access. You've got IP connectivity. You need to understand what IP addresses are. How do networks talk to each other? How do endpoints communicate with each other? What is an IP address? What's the different type of IP addresses that are available and can be used? What's the difference between public and private IP addressing? What's the difference between IPv4 and IPv6? These are sort of things, especially if you're looking at cybersecurity roles such as cybersecurity engineers, or if you're looking at maybe penetration testing roles, things like that, where you're going to be actually making use of the networking side as well, such as the IP addresses as well. As an example, these things are very important. And to be able to jump into cybersecurity, you first need to understand the network fundamentals. And I always tell everybody I speak to that asks me this question, in order to get into cybersecurity, network fundamentals are essential. Because at the end of the day, cybersecurity, I like to see it as a branch. Everything really started out with networking and networks, and then things started to branch out into different areas such as collaboration, security, etc. And it all comes back to network fundamentals. Whether you're looking at cloud environments, which again, they're built off networks, whether you're looking at on-premise data centers, whatever you're looking at, everything is based off of networks. So if you can understand networking concepts, then that really sets you up to be able to get into cybersecurity and pick up the remaining pieces related to cybersecurity themselves, really get into the nitty gritty with that sort of stuff as well. So continuing to look at the CCNA, well, we spoke about networking, which I said is very important to understand how networks work in order to actually have a career in cybersecurity. Now, you can see, it's not just networking, and we'll take a look at the CCNA blueprint as well, just to kind of show you a little bit more about where security comes into this. But you can see in the CCNA, we're going to learn security fundamentals. We'll take a look at the blueprint, as I say, to see exactly what that means. And then you've got automation and programmability, which again is another important aspect as well, especially if, again, I'm referring to, say, penetration testing, where you might need to, develop some sort of scripts to run some exploits or run some code. Having an understanding of the concepts really helps as well. Now, we won't focus too much on the possible job roles here that's mentioned on the Cisco website, because I'm assuming you're watching this video because you are looking at getting into cybersecurity and less the networking side. But what's important here is that, for anybody looking at starting out, there is no prerequisites in order to obtain this certification. You simply just have to understand and go through the content required to take the exam. And then once past the exam, you will be Cisco certified. You will be a Cisco certified network associate. So you'll basically have the certification, which is valid for 3 years before you have to renew that certification. And in terms of renewing the certification, you can either pass a qualifying exam, so that could be passing the CCNA again, or an upper exam such as the Cisco Certified Networking Professional exams, or you could earn 30 continuing education credits in order to recertify as well. I won't focus on that today because that's not the purpose of this, but let's take a look at the exam topics. So on the exam topics, these are the sort of things that you will be looking at studying in order to take the exam and become CCNA certified. So you can see 20% weighting is around network fundamentals. So you're going to learn, although it says networking fundamentals, I could probably point out some things here that are related to security as well. You've got topics around routers. So again, if we were to kind of go down the security view of this, how do you protect a router? Let's, first of all, before you can protect a router, you need to know what a router is. You need to know how routers function. You need to know the possibilities and capabilities of routers as well. So think of it like that. If you don't know what a router is at the moment, but you want to get into cybersecurity, then the CCNA is going to give you that fundamental knowledge of what a router is, what the capabilities are. Then you can look at protecting or exploiting, obviously depending on what job role it is that you're doing. Again, layer 2 and layer 3 switches. So, if you're watching this and listening to me and you don't know what a layer 2 or layer 3 switch is, then again, networking fundamentals, you're going to learn what a switch is. You're going to learn the difference between layer 2 and layer 3, and that's going to help you then, again, depending on job role, either protect those devices, exploit those devices, or just, have a good understanding of what these devices are as well. Now, security comes in here, so you can see, even though it's under networking fundamentals, you can see that we've got a section on next generation firewalls and IPSs. So again, if you're unfamiliar with next gen firewalls and intrusion prevention systems or intrusion detection systems, then again, this is going to give you some fundamental knowledge that's required. And these are security solutions. So firewalls and IPSs, IDSs, these are security solutions that you'll no doubt be having some sort of interaction with or talking about if you are looking at getting into cybersecurity. So again, the CCNA is going to give you some knowledge of what those are, rather than just kind of jumping into a more cybersecurity focused certification that maybe already expects or assumes that you have an understanding of what they are as well. Access points, so that's looking at like wireless aspect. You got some stuff around controllers, we're not going to touch on that. We've got endpoint servers and power over Ethernet. So again, you could also tie in security aspects to all of them as well. Quickly skipping through this, you've got information around the difference between TCP and UDP. So, you're going to start looking at the OSI model. You're going to start looking at the differences between IPv4, IPv6 as well. And then, into more detail around the different types of addressing with the two. And then there's some more wireless concepts, and then you've got some switching concepts as well here as well. So, even just off the topics covered in 1.0 of the CCNA, for anybody that is coming in new to cybersecurity or the industry as a whole, the tech industry as a whole, the CCNA certification, even just off this, is giving you a wealth of knowledge, providing you learn that, of course. It's giving you a wealth of knowledge in areas that you need to know, or areas that are going to give you an advantage when you really start to get into cybersecurity. We'll just quickly run through the other ones. So 2.0, you start looking at VLANs. You're looking at trunk ports. Now, all these, again, depending on what job role you're doing, but if you're looking at some sort of cybersecurity engineer role or security engineer role, the chances are of you focusing on switches and VLANs and trunks and trying to segment traffic is very important, and more than likely you're going to be doing it using VLANs and trunks, etc. as well. So to have that understanding of network access or network fundamentals, and then build on top of that with security, once you understand those fundamentals, is very key. And then you've got some stuff around different layer 2 and layer 3 protocols, again, very important. Especially, if we kind of give an example here around how you want to either move laterally through a network, how you maybe want to attack a network or attack a certain device, understanding these concepts gives you a better grasp of cybersecurity and how to navigate certain fields within cybersecurity as well. You've got information around spanning tree, you've got different management access controls. So you've got Telnet SSH, what's the difference between the two of those? What's the difference between HTTP and HTTPS? Is one secure, is one not secure? Things like this are very important for getting into cybersecurity. TACAX versus radius as well. There's a lot of information here that you're going to cover that I believe is very important for anybody looking to get into cybersecurity. Or, to be fair, any role, any tech role that's going to require some understanding of any of these concepts, how networks work, how security works at a high level. This certification is going to be ideal for you. Quickly looking at IP connectivity, we can see we've got information. Again, we've touched on this, the difference between IPv4 and IPv6. You've got information around routing protocols, routing tables. Again, these are very important concepts. Although it's more focused on networking and routing and switching, these are important concepts for cybersecurity as well. We've got IP services, so using NAT, using NTP, DHCP, DNS. Again, very important concepts for cybersecurity as well. And then lastly, we go on to the last two, 5.0 and 6.0. You've got a full section which is 15% on security fundamentals alone. So not only with the CCNA are you getting that networking fundamental knowledge, but you're also getting fundamental security knowledge as well. So this is really going to set anybody up looking to get into cybersecurity with a good base understanding of network fundamentals, probably a little bit more than just the fundamentals, and also a base level of security knowledge as well, which is very key as well. And this will really help you move on to additional certifications, maybe get a entry level role within security, and then kind of work your way up looking at other certifications or getting more experience on the job as well. Let's just take a look at some of these topics that's covered in security fundamentals. So we've got key security concepts here. You know, what are threats? What are vulnerabilities? What are exploits? What are some of the mitigation techniques that exist today? Again, I mean, it kind of goes without saying it's a security section anyway. So, you know, all these are security focused. These we got 5.2, describe security program elements. So things such as user awareness, you know, how important is it for everybody to know about cybersecurity and security in general? How important is it for everybody to take responsibility of what they're doing when it comes to cybersecurity? How important is training? What sort of, you know, what does training look like? What are the different physical access controls that exist? How do you secure devices in 5.3 here? So this is looking at securing access control using local passwords, so passwords that are local to the device itself. Looking at password policy elements, management elements, and alternatives such as multi-factor authentication, certificates, and that's digital certificates, and biometrics. Again, all security focused. And although you won't be getting into the nitty gritty of each of these topics, you will be getting that base understanding of what these are, which is going to better prepare you for a job in cybersecurity, or it's going to better prepare you to move on to more security focused certifications. And we start looking at VPNs, so site-to-site VPNs. You know, that's just one type of VPN that exists. You know, there is other sort of VPNs as well. So it's giving you an eye-level view of, you know, what the possibilities are with virtual private networks. Access control, how do you control it on devices? You start looking at layer 2 security features, DHCP snooping, dynamic ARP inspection, things like this that are going to prevent attackers from being able to gain access to devices, spoof devices. You know, these topics are very, very important. And then you've got authentication, authorization, and accounting. This is another very important topic as well. And then you've got information or topics around wireless as well. So you're looking at different wireless protocols and how wireless works as well. And then lastly, you've got a little section, 10%, on automation and programmability. So you're looking at automation and how it impacts network management. You're looking at controller-based network as opposed to the traditional networking. You're looking at some API stuff there. You're looking at more focused on Cisco DNAC or DNA Center there. You've got topics covering APIs. You've got topics covering different configuration management mechanisms such as Puppet, Chef, Ansible, and how that works with automation. And then you've got a topic around JSON as well. So you can see the CCNA is really trying to give you that holistic view of not just networking, but security and the other important elements that are required in order to set you up to be successful in the industry. And it's not just cybersecurity. As I said, the CCNA is obviously a certification that's focused on network fundamentals, but since the CCNA has been condensed in the past, for those that don't know, we used to have different tracks for the CCNA. So we used to have CCNA routing and switching that focused on routing and switching. We used to have CCNA security that focused primarily on security, and there were other tracks as well. That's all gone, and now we have just one CCNA has been condensed into one CCNA certification. So what the team have done or tried to do is put the most important concepts in there to give the person that wants to attempt this certification a well-rounded view of technology, the industry, and sort of the skills that you need to be aware of in order to make that decision to either continue to progress on to employment as maybe a network engineer, or branch out into different fields such as cybersecurity, collaboration, and the other fields that exist out there. Now, I did just that. When I first started out with a CCNA certification, I did the CCNA routing and switching, and then I wanted to branch out, so I did the CCNA security, and then I moved on from there as well. Now you don't need to do that. You've got one CCNA certification exam, which is going to cover the topics that we've just discussed. So you're going to learn the networking fundamentals, and then you're going to also learn some other bits and pieces that are important, and also security elements for those looking to get into cybersecurity. And then you can look to move on to more cybersecurity focused certifications, or get a job within cybersecurity as well. And what I'll do is I'll just quickly show you a more cybersecurity focused certification just to compare the two, so you can really see why it is that I recommend the CCNA to start out with, to get that networking fundamental knowledge as well as the additional knowledge, and then move on, as opposed to just going for a purely security focused certification. Now, one example is looking at the EC Council website, and generally I get people say, well, why don't I just go for a certification like this when starting out? And the certification is the Certified Ethical Hacker certification, which is great. It's a great certification if you would like to get an understanding of ethical hacking, sort of tools that you can use, etc., etc. But as a starting point for somebody that's looking to get into cybersecurity with minimum to no experience, then, you know, again, I wouldn't recommend it. And if we look here under this section here, is Certified Ethical Hacker version 12 for beginners. It goes on to say that it's a great place to start your career in cybersecurity, but you're required to have some knowledge before getting into certified ethical hacker. It's saying that it recommends you have a minimum of 2 years IT security experience before attempting the exam. Now, I would say that, you know, somebody with, you know, maybe a good 1 year's experience could probably attempt this exam and go through the content and pass. But again, everybody is different. So, you know, going off what EC Council says, it says a minimum of 2 years IT security experience. Now, this is basically saying, you know, this is kind of that evidence there that you need for anybody that's reached out to me and said, well, why don't I just go for this certification to start with? And, you know, it's there in black and white. You know, you need to have some sort of experience and understanding of fundamentals before you attempt to take this exam. And with this, when it's saying, you know, IT security experience, you know, this could be anything from IT security based around networking, which again is touching on fundamentals, the fundamentals that the CCNA is going to cover as well. Let's just take a look at one more just to kind of close it out here. So the other one is Certified in Cybersecurity, CC, which is a certification, a new certification actually offered by ISC Squared. And I've done a video specifically around this certification, so I'm not going to go into detail about this, but this is another entry-level certification, again, a fairly new one that you can look at as well. And if we just take a look at, I'm going to use the new book that they have released to kind of just highlight some of the topics that you'll cover here, just to show you the breadth at which they cover and the difference between the CCNA as well. So without going into detail about the exam itself, as I say, I've done a separate video on my YouTube channel about that. So if you do want to see that, please do take a look on my YouTube channel with that as well. I have also created a Discord group that covers different channels around Cisco certifications, as well as certifications such as the ISC Squared Certified in Cybersecurity as well. So I will post that link in this video description as well if you want to join that Discord channel as well and get involved. So if we just look at some of the topics here, we can see that chapter 1 is going to focus on security principles. We've got chapter 2, which is looking at incident response, business continuity, and disaster recovery. And then we've got access control concepts, we've got network security, we've got security operations as well. So again, this is a good certification, a good entry-level cybersecurity certification. But when it comes to, and I've not downloaded this specific ebook yet. So anybody that's watching who already has this, please do let me know what it is like. But just looking at the chapters and the topics that are covered, you're going to get a good overview of cybersecurity. But in terms of computer networking and networking fundamentals, as well as the other sort of fundamentals that's covered in the CCNA, such as wireless and maybe how routing tables work, how dynamic routing protocols work, the differences between IPv4 and IPv6, stuff like that, the automation side of it, you're just not going to get that in here, I believe, because this is purely focused on touching the fundamentals, more of the fundamentals of cybersecurity around, and not necessarily purely technical elements as well. So you're kind of looking more like chapter 2, you're covering incident response, business continuity, disaster recovery. So you're looking at concepts around that as well. So you're not kind of getting into the nitty-gritty technical stuff that you probably will get into with the CCNA as well. In chapter 4, you can see that there's one topic here around understanding computer networking, which is great. But again, by looking at the CCNA, which is a Cisco certified network associate certification, you're really going to get that breadth of networking fundamental knowledge that you need in order to kind of progress or excel within cybersecurity. So what I would say for anybody that's looking at getting into cybersecurity, to sum up, please start, and again, you're looking at certifications as a way to get started. Please look at the CCNA certification. We've covered the topics, you've seen it yourself. You can go onto the Cisco website, take a look at those topics yourself. But I believe it's a great starting point for anybody looking to get into cybersecurity, or again, progress with networking and kind of move on to something else as well. And then if you would like, what I would say is that once you've done that and you really want to, you've made that decision to, move into cybersecurity, you're looking for jobs in cybersecurity, entry-level roles, maybe take a look at the ISC squared certified in cybersecurity certification, because I think that will help top up that security knowledge that you gain from the CCNA and kind of really take things to the next level there. And then you can start looking at more advanced certifications as well. Or by that time, you may already have a job and be kind of getting the hands-on experience in the industry. But there you have it. So anybody that's coming to me now and asking that same question, you're going to get this video. And this video, essentially, in summary, is saying, if you want to get into cybersecurity and you have little to no knowledge in the tech industry or cybersecurity, then the CCNA is a great starting point certification. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you've got any questions, please do reach out to me on YouTube, Twitter, or my other social media platforms, and I will do my best to get back to you. Thank you.